Welcome back to the Lights Out Podcast, bedtime stories for boys and girls around the world. Good evening, boys and girls. Are you ready for bed? Are you all snuggled up and ready for another Lights Out bedtime story? Good, because you're in for a treat tonight. That's right. In tribute to the creator of Little Miss books and Mr. Men books, Roger Hargreaves, we have a series of 24 stories in 24 hours to make sure that wherever in the world you are, whatever time you go to bed, you have a Mr. Men book to listen to tonight. Book 17 of 24, Mr. Lazy by Roger Hargreaves. Mr. Lazy lives in Sleepyland, which is a very lazy-looking and sleepy-like place. The birds in Sleepyland fly so low they sometimes fall out of the sky. The grass takes so long to grow it only needs cutting once a year. Even the trees are lazy-looking and sleepy-like. And do you know what time everybody gets up in Sleepyland? The answer is, they don't get up in the morning. They get up in the afternoon. And incredibly, this is what a Sleepyland clock looks like. Everything takes so long to do. There's only time for 4 hours a day. Anyway, this story starts with Mr. Lazy being fast asleep in bed. In Sleepyland, they call that being slow asleep. He spends rather a lot of time in bed. It's his favourite place to be. He opened his eyes, yawned again, and went back to sleep. Later, Mr. Lazy opened his eyes again, yawned again, and went back to sleep again. Much later, Mr. Lazy got up and went to make his breakfast. We say breakfast, although really, it was tea time. He put the kettle on to make some tea. Kettles take 2 hours to boil in Sleepyland. Then he toasted a slice of bread. Bread takes 3 hours to go brown in Sleepyland. Toast never gets burnt there. While he was waiting for his kettle to boil and his bread to toast, Mr. Lazy went into the garden of Yawn Cottage, which was where he lived. He sat down on a chair, and you can probably guess what happened next. That's right, he yawned and yawned again and went to sleep. Suddenly he woke up with a jump, which is something that doesn't happen very often to Mr. Lazy. And the reason he woke up with a jump was because of the noise. "Wake up," said the noise. "Wake up, wake up, wake up." There were 2 men standing in front of him. "I'm Mr. Busy," said one of the men.
"And I'm Mr. Bustle,"
said the other.
"Come along,"
said Mr. Bustle busily.
"We can't have you sleeping all day,"
added Mr. Busy, bustling Mr. Lazy to his feet. "But who are you?" asked Mr. Lazy.
"We are Mr. Bustle,
Mr. Busy," they replied. "Oh," said Mr. Lazy. "Come along now," said Mr. Busy. "We haven't got all day." But, said Mr. Lazy. "No time for buts," said Mr. Busy.
"Or ifs,"
added Mr. Bustle.
"There's wood to chop, and there's beds to make, and there's floors to clean, and there's coal to get, and the windows to polish, and slates to wash, and furniture to dust, and the grass to cut, and the hedges to clip, and the food to cook, and the clothes to mend," added Mr. Busy.
"Oh dear," groaned Mr. Lazy in a daze. "The wood to clean, the beds to get, and the floors to cut, the coal to cook, the windows to make, and the plates to mend, and the furniture to chop, the grass to wash, and the hedges to dust, and the clothes to clip." He'd got it all completely wrong. He was in such a daze. Then Bustle and Busy set Mr. Lazy to work, chopping and making and cleaning and getting and polishing and washing and dusting and cutting and clipping and cooking and mending. Not to mention all the fetching and carrying. Poor Mr. Lazy.
"Now," they said when he'd finished, "it's time for a walk."
and off they set on the longest walk Mr. Lazy had ever been on. Mr. Lazy is one of those people who never walks when he has a chance of sitting down, and never sits down when he has a chance of lying down. But this day he had no choice. They made him walk for miles and miles and miles, until he felt his legs must be worn right down to his body. Poor Mr. Lazy. When they arrived back at Yawn Cottage, Mr. Busy said,
Right, now for a run.
"Oh no!" groaned Mr. Lazy.
When we blow this whistle,
said Mr. Bustle, producing a whistle.
"You've got to start running."
"As fast as you can," added Mr. Busy. Mr. Lazy groaned a deep groan and closed his eyes. Mr. Bustle put the whistle to his lips. Went the whistle. Mr. Lazy, poor Mr. Lazy, started to run, but his legs weren't getting him anywhere. He opened his eyes and looked down to see why. And the reason his legs weren't getting him anywhere was because he was standing on a chair in the garden. And there was no sign of Mr. Busy and Mr. Bustle. It had all been a dream. And the whistle was a whistling kettle boiling in the kitchen. Mr. Lazy heaved a sigh of relief. Whew! And then he went into the kitchen and sat down to have his breakfast and to think about his dream. But you know what happened next, don't you? "Wake up, Mr. Lazy! Mr. Lazy! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!" The end of Mr. Lazy by Roger Hargreaves. Here on the Lights Out Podcast. Bedtime stories for boys and girls and Mr. Lazies around the world. Good night.